Ladies and gentlemen, we are live. Welcome back to Five Count. We are the North South Connection. I'm El Lunchador, aka Jack Edwards,
I'm Big George,
and we
everybody.
he needs no introduction. We know who he is. And ladies and gentlemen, this is a really good show. I'm really excited about this. I've been waiting for a while. Um, but before we do it, I just want to say, for some people know, some people don't. Um, I uh, I promote professional wrestling and have been for about 20 years in Ontario. And we suffered a great loss this week. And a gentleman by the name of Jesse Scott, who wrestles as JT Playa for us. He's been in an Ontario indie scene for decades, years. He passed away, young guy, 43 years old. Cancer sucks. It really is. It's really horrible. He's been fighting hard for a while, but he finally succumbed to it. And it's sad. I didn't know Jesse super well, but I knew him. I talked to him every time we got together. Anytime we did a session or anything like that, I always got a chance to talk to Jesse. He was absolutely hilarious. He was so funny and a really, really talented guy. Like he could wrestle really well. He was a good worker. He had a good gift of gab, good mic skill. Was one of our broadcasters, and it always made me laugh because he always said he was like he did it this accent, which always killed me. And Jack Edwards. He's like, Jackie boy, what do you gotta say? I'm just like it always killed me. A big Colts fan, super big sports fan, but just a really really good guy. Started a company called Neo Pro Wrestling, which is in Niagara Falls, so right on the border, and started in the early 2000s and gave a lot of guys in Ontario who went on to do stuff in TNA and WWE and give a lot of them their break. Sean Spears kind of started there, Crazy Steve, Cody Deaner, those kind of guys from Ontario. So um, he was awesome. He was just a really, really good person and a really, really big part of everything we did. And it was sad. I mean, he really had he was really well liked. I don't know anybody I've met in wrestling who's ever said a bad word about Jesse. And it was tough. He was battling for a while, and it just, he's got a young family, three young kids. So my condolences to his family and his friends and the people who knew him. But one of my favorite stories about Jesse was he did. We ran a show in a town called Lindsay, Ontario, which is Eastern Ontario. I can't even describe to you where it is. But it wasn't a great show to the point when my partner called. He's like, "Well, what are we going to do for the return?" I said, "I don't think we're going to have a return. I don't. I don't think we're coming back here." But our booker Bill, who's got a really cool sense of humor, we have a guy who wrestled under a mask called Dragon Lee before the current Dragon Lee. This is a long time. He's more of a homage to kung fu movies. So Bill tagged Jesse, who was a black dude, with Dragon Lee and called him Rush Hour.
I'm not gonna laugh
Tag
at
team.
that. I'm not gonna laugh at that. Mm-mm,
You are gonna laugh. That it was hilarious,
mm-mm.
and but again, like it was sad for us to see Jesse pass. So I just wanted to say something to him because he was a really nice guy and a really good person, and it's a big loss.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So
All wrestlers deserve their shine, especially in their time of grace. I
yeah,
didn't know Jesse. I didn't get to watch much of his work, but anybody
yeah.
who had a love for the business and
To want to become
did
a
it well.
promoter at,
I
at
mean,
this level,
even after having what he had, and I think that's one thing that you kind of have to look at. He even fought through that just to kind of be what he wanted to be, and he gave back more than he probably would have got. I think that people really loved him for who he was, and so when you have a great person like that, you definitely got to give him a shout out.
yeah, he was cool. He was great, and he did a lot of like he helped a lot of people, and but just a really really good person overall,
Absolutely.
and really sad for us because he did broadcasting for us. He wrestled. We did a TV taping up in Sudbury, which is just it's northern Ontario. It's just that's all I can tell you. But he had a match with a guy who's a good friend of his, Primo Spordino. That just the guys, everybody watching there, because it's a so we it's part of a show we were doing where it was kind of closed. It was after COVID, kind of deal with that. But he had a match, and it was like maybe a 6-minute match, but it was just something you don't see on TV today. It was really, really old school. It was really, really smooth. Nothing was rushed, and he had that way of working. So I mean, he was just a real special guy, and it's so it's sad to see, but guys like that, there's so many cool things. And one of the things, if anybody here, if a local indie comes to your town, try and check it out. I mean, you can usually tell by the poster if it's going to be good. If the guys on there don't look like they have builds, then probably stay away. But there are really good indies in every community. We're one in Ontario. We're a big one. Like, we always get the best guys, but you go to an indie, like, just go, because there's a lot of talent on the independent scene who may not get like you said, get their shine or get noticed. And it's good wrestling for a great price. And it's in our case, it's more back to basics. It's more that we're doing a little bit more old schoolish, but yeah, go check out your indies, because you never know who you're going to see. Because I remember being on Independence, going to watch Independence years ago, and some of the guys were like, with the next I was like, wow, I remember seeing him when he was young. So it's you never know who you're going to see.
Everybody ages up. Everybody comes up in the business one way or another. I think one thing that you have to kind of factor in is when you watch these indies, you have to look at it for the craft and not for the high flying, the regular Monday Night Raw stuff. It's not going to be that. It's a lot more old school, a lot more technical. You might see some stuff, and you might see some stuff that might be.
You get a good mix.
Yeah, you do get a good mix, but it's not going to be what you would consider a Monday Night Raw type show. It's not that. Sometimes it's more eventful.
No, it's like not in terms of production as well, obviously, because most indies don't have $1 billion budget.
Right.
AEW. But like in terms of the talent, like, I mean, I know just from what we do and the guys we have, like, they are dedicated. Like, even though they might not be on the WWE there yet, some of them clearly should be. And it's the same thing all over the place. These guys are in the gym, guys and girls, pardon me. These guys and girls are in the gym. Kareem, you didn't miss it. We just started the show. He's like, did I miss it? I'm like, we're not even there yet. But you're going to see a lot of, like, they work hard and they really are dedicated to the craft, a lot of them. I mean, when I say bad indies, the ones we're talking about, like the ones that do more and if, the hardcore stuff is stuff I'd stay away from, but that's just me. That's my bag. But, like, you'll see a lot of talent on there that, like, you wouldn't otherwise get to see. So definitely support your local indie. And if you're near the Collingwood, Ontario area on June 1st, buy tickets, because our show is going to be the best one we've ever done. So I'm super excited about it. George, what are we talking about today?
I want to say something so bad, so I'll leave it, regular. This is for my dark-skinned brothers and sisters. This is for the chocolate side of things. We are talking about black wrestlers from the 80s and the 90s, men and women. So let's kind of just go ahead and put that there. Not necessarily all your favorite superstars, though. We got to take some out, because sometimes you have to kind of look at it. Everybody's going to be like, oh, The Rock is the #1 black wrestler of all time. Okay, well, guess what? He's off the list. So
not on this list. You got the Eddie and Ray treatment.
Yeah. You got to exclude some. So on this list, you're going to have a variety of 90s, 80s men and women who actually did some good stuff. Not everybody's going to make the list, but at the same time, we're going to give some good honorable mentions here, because there's a lot of them deserve some good names, some good pick. I think we're definitely going to do a little tribute here coming up here next. Starting off with one of the kind of, not necessarily pioneers, but one of those black guys who y'all just be like, you laugh at, but when you laugh at him, you got to understand he's been in this for a long time, and that's Mr. Teddy Long, one of the better managers.
And the reason why we did this, I guess we explained, is The Rock Rock's kind of. We want to highlight some other folks in this list, and you had mentioned about what about Teddy Long, and I don't think Teddy Long. This is more so for wrestlers, but Teddy Long fits into a whole bunch of different categories, which is why we're talking about. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh no,
Let's
no,
talk
no, no.
about Teddy.
Fine.
Let's talk about Teddy.
Because Teddy did a lot for the business. I think you
A
seen
lot.
Teddy as a referee, you seen Teddy as a manager, you seen Teddy as a GM, you seen Teddy as, you seen Teddy get married on SmackDown. I think that's one of the funniest
Have a heart
things you
attack.
actually see. You've seen him have a heart attack. You've seen Teddy do all kinds of things. You've seen Teddy take bumps. You've seen Teddy be fat. And that's what the one thing when you go back and watch WCW, he was managing, I think, Ice Tray. And
Oh, yeah, he got big. He got thick.
and he was a little thick. He was a little thick around that time. So at the same time, you definitely had a lot of things that came out of Teddy Long. He gave you great slogans. Like Kareem said in the chat, holla, holla, holla. You always was, looking out for it. Or if you seen him come out there, you was looking at the anticipation of when he was going to announce who was going to face the Undertaker. So it was just like, a lot of Teddy Long action kind of took place, and we definitely owe a lot to Teddy Long because he definitely took up a lot of good time in WWE, and it was not bad TV time. Loved every minute of Teddy Long actually being out there for me personally.
He was, yeah. I mean, he kind of fell in. There's a great a Legends Roundtable that talks about it's for a Black History Month thing. It's from, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago, I guess. And Teddy Long talked about his history and how he started. He was like putting up the ring, referee. Then they found out he was a DJ when he was younger. He was a radio DJ, and he could talk. And then, I mean, some of the people like Teddy Long, like him with Doom, was such a good fit. It was such a good fit because he was just. I remember he was just obnoxious. Like he was just obnoxious. He was just so obnoxious, and that's what he did. But like, but when he got to WWE, he refereed, and then when he was with the White Boy Challenge with Rodney Mack.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very fun.
Back to Mac. We got a back to Mac. Hey. I mean, just like and down with the Brown. Yeah. And then like when he I don't know. And yeah, when he was the GM, he was just an all-around great talent that I don't think a lot of people realize how good he was. Like he was a good manager. He managed a lot of people. And when you're around for that long doing that many things, like as long as he was, you knew you were good at like and whatever they gave him. Like that was the thing. He was like the Swiss Army knife. Whatever they gave Teddy, he made it work. And I that's just when he was like when he did the thing with Rodney Mack and D'Lo. That was some of my favorite Teddy Long stuff. Let me holler at you, player.
Let me holler at you, player. I'm gonna tell you right now. There are a lot of people who have a slogan. I don't know if there are more people who have better slogans than Teddy Long. Teddy Long would come out with the holla, 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 let me holler at you, player. He would sit you down and wear them big ass suits. It'll just be a good ass time. So you gotta love Teddy Long. Teddy Long is one of the great honorable mentions.
And he had a great induction by the APA when they inducted him into the Hall of Fame. I mean, that was great. Yeah, Teddy Long deserves to be recognized for all he's done because it's a lot.
Shout out to Teddy Long, man. He deserves
Teddy Long.
This little segment. One thing about today's list, like I said, there's going to be a lot of honorable mentions, but I'm gonna steal the show for a second, John. There are a lot of Black people who actually, got into wrestling in the 80s and 90s who weren't wrestlers, who just started on the show. Sometimes they had people who actually wrestled for a little while, like Tiny Zeus Lister or Zeus. As some of you who may know this.
I have a story about Zeus.
Mr. T was there. And then you even had Mike Tyson come on. One of the most famous Black people ever.
Well, later. But remember when Tyson... Yeah, it was. But remember when Tyson was supposed to be the ref for Hogan versus Savage live on the main event. And he got knocked out by Buster Douglas the week before. So in comes Buster Douglas, and I'm like, oh, that didn't go well.
That's not supposed to do that.
Mr. T, yeah, like I mean, Mr. T, that's a great one too. Like Mr. T, Zeus was. I remember when that whole came out, that No Holds Barred. I was
Hmm.
terrified of Zeus. Like I was 9 years old, so I was like, it's I was in, and I thought Zeus was gonna kill Elizabeth. I was like, I did not want that at all. He was gonna kill Elizabeth, and it was he was terrifying because he looked the part. And you know what I liked about Zeus? And people are like, oh, Zeus this, and I love how they use Zeus. Like that's how you use a guy like that. Clearly, he looks like he's a monster. Hogan's the monster heel. I mean, that's how you use a guy. And was he great? No, he's not a great technical wrestler. He's not Dynamite Kid or any of these guys.
Right.
But he was terrifying, absolutely terrifying. So,
I
and
think
there's one more guy you mentioned that. Sorry, and Mr. T, obviously. Sorry, go ahead.
yes. No, but there's like I say, there's a lot of them. I mean, you had a lot from Zeus. Zeus was like one of the most polarizing characters I've ever seen. And the thing was, he wasn't just polarizing in the ring, movies as well. So it was just like him as a character, him as an entity came in, you know, he did his thing. And so he sold intimidation like nobody else could, to be honest. Let's face it. He got in the WWE ring and sold intimidation to people who were looking at Hulk Hogan like Jesus. And I'm just saying this. He came in, he did his job, and I just thank him for doing that, as not necessarily a wrestler, but someone who can come in and actually, play a good part. I think it was fun to see him do it. It was fun to watch him. You definitely have a lot. Oh, Karl Malone and Dennis Rodman, two others in
Dennis Rodman,
WCW.
yeah.
When they
Reggie
had that
White.
Reggie White, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of black folks who came in and just kind of did.
A
Oh,
lot of
hold on, wait. I don't know if everybody was watching at this time, but Master P was on. I think what was it, WCW?
No, they all turned off when that came on. That was when everybody started to turn off the TV sets around WCW time.
Yeah, but no, but it happened.
Oh, he was there.
I was there. I put it to you like this. I'm one of those who
and
went
he
down
had like
with the ship.
an army of dudes who were just yoked. Like there was a guy named Swole who was like a wrestler, and then like just huge dudes. I'm like, where did he holy crap?
I don't know where he found these dudes at, but they was big as shit. I was like, yo, first of all, where they got camos to fit these big motherfuckers. But anyway,
another one.
No, go ahead.
Who's not a rest? Sorry, go. I keep interrupting.
This is This is what we do. We got to keep it going.
Slick. He's not a wrestler, but he'll never get mentioned. I liked him as a manager. Like again, obnoxious. Like he was. Now, when you look at the he could be Kareem.
Maybe.
When you look at, like the managers, like he was great. He was a great character and a great mouthpiece. I loved him as a manager. I liked the guys he managed. I didn't get Akeem. I don't know why they did that, but whatever. But Slick is a guy that again may never get his props, but was a key figure. Like he managed a lot of the top guys. So I mean, I want to give some love to Slick. Plus, like that music was just like Slick's theme music, just like, oh man. So, George, are you ready to get to the list? Do we have who else are we talking about? We got any more?
I don't have a lot more as far as guest appearances because, of course, then we start leaking into the 2000s and the 2010s, and of course, at that particular time, that's a whole nother era where it was a whole different more African American superstars at that particular point who would come on the show. The love for wrestling at that point was crazy. I mean, you've seen people like LeBron James come on at that point. So it's we're not going to get into that, but there are a lot of black wrestlers right now that we can kind of get into that are a little bit early who won't make the list, more or less. I have 3 people that I want to shout out that kind of.
Well, let's see where they land though. Like you never know.
I highly
okay, hit me with him.
First one, Norman Smiley. I know he's not making the list.
Oh,
WCW's own Norman Smiley.
Norman
Definitely was
Smiley.
one of the most entertaining black dudes. He was not necessarily a high flyer, but he was very
Technical,
energetic,
very technical,
very
very technical.
technical. He would put you in something called the chicken wing, and the chicken wing would choke your ass the fuck out. But at the same time, then normally see, and then normally Norman would get up after the match if he won and do a dance called the chicken wing. So
No, it's
funny
the big
enough,
wiggle.
yeah, the big wiggle, and he would hit the chicken
Yeah.
wing in it too. So it's funny enough that Norman Smiley, he was very entertaining, very good. But you definitely had him. Um, I know you will probably steal this pick or even take this honorable mention from me, but he deserves to be talked about too. Ernest the Cat Miller. I'm gonna let you go ahead and take Ernest the Cat Miller
Oh,
because the
Ernest.
cat was
So
funny as hell.
I remember I watched. We went to a bar in college, 2000, to watch Super Brawl 2000. That's how much I loved wrestling. I'd go watch it, and that's when James Brown came out with it. And
Mm.
once he became like when he was the babyface, it wasn't like I get what they were doing. Once he became had the red shoes with Sonny Ono and like started kicking dudes like faces off and like had that talk and that voice, like he had that charisma and I liked him. I don't think he got as big of a run as maybe he should have. He kind of got lost in the shuffle. But Ernest Miller, yeah, that's he was classic. And then that night when we went back, we got really drunk. Which if you ever watch Super Bowl 2000, you probably have to get drunk after it.
Yeah,
But
any
Ernest Miller,
of the pay-per-views in
Ernest Miller,
2000
yes, I like. Oh my
yeah,
God, Ernest Miller, yes. Who's the
gotta
third
love
one?
the cat. And the third, I don't know if he'll make the list or not, but I doubt he will. I'm going to say Virgil.
I just typed the name as I was doing it. Before he said, I typed the name like who else? I'm like Virgil. Absolutely, yes.
Virgil's not making the top five today. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, he's a great addition to the list, but today he won't make it. I feel like I can find five that I can take to war with me. And
Yeah.
I don't know if Virgil's one of those, but at the same time, I definitely do appreciate everything he did for the business. Um, Even though I would love him having a bigger role after being the sidekick to Ted DiBiase for all those years. Um, but you go into the NWO being technically one of the first black members of the NWO.
He
Um,
was the first one.
he was technically the first black member, but the thing is, I don't
Yeah.
consider him as one of the first black members because he never wrestled. He only had maybe like one or two matches in an NWO shirt at the time, and then Stevie Ray comes along, and then he has like 19 in the shirt. So I'm kind of saying that's why I say technically he was, but I mean, he was great. He was all around. He was never really
He
a
was
big
good.
talker. He was more in the ring technical. Um,
And
and
he
then
knew his role.
right,
Like he knew his role. Like that was the thing. He knew not to paraphrase, but like I remember when he turned on DiBiase. That was a huge thing. He was really over.
yes,
I mean, problem was they sent him out in the friggin' candy striper tights. He just never had the individual charisma to be a main event guy.
main
He
event
wasn't
guy, yeah.
big enough. But like again, there's a guy who did his job and did it well and did it with and was employed in wrestling for a long time. So I mean, yeah, Virgil for sure, absolutely.
And he rounds out the three honorable mentions for me. I think that you know, even though they did such a really good job, kind of making him a baby face at one point, then a heel at another point in his career, he could flip the switch. I mean, it really wasn't a big deal because he was a worker, so it was just like he could do it all. And it really didn't take much, but he was a very big impact, and I never want people to sleep on what he actually brought to the business.
No,
Um,
he
that's
was he
one of
was
the
over
reasons
at
why
one
I
point.
brought it here. So, like I say, Norman
That's a good one.
Smiley, Virgil, and Can't even think. Ernest the
Ernest
Cat Miller
Miller.
for a
Ernest
split
Miller.
second. Ernest the Cat Miller. But at the same time, these three guys are really, really big in wrestling history, as far as WCW is considered, and WWE for some.
So I got three that probably won't make the list.
Sure.
So one is SD Jones, Special Delivery Jones.
Special Delivery Jones. Yes.
I had his action figure, and I watch a lot of old school WWF, and he was like, he was good. He wasn't great. Again, there's a guy who probably was never going to be upper echelon star, but like again, I love that he was like I like to call it. He was a little bit more of a soft body guy. He wasn't a muscle guy, but he was big. You could definitely tell that was some dude that probably could choke you. Like if he got a hold of you, he'd probably be able to hurt you. And like he was a lower card job guy, but he had an action figure. He had two of them. He had one in different shirts. But I always liked SD Jones. I always thought he was good. The second one I have, who probably won't make the list, is Iceman King Parsons. Being in Dallas, he was obviously his world class stuff. I saw a lot of his stuff because we had a show called Pro Wrestling Plus up here in Canada on like Sunday mornings, and it got videos from all over the territories that were left. So I saw a lot of Iceman King Parsons on that show. And again, like he drew a lot of money in Dallas, didn't really go anywhere else. That was it. But a dude who had a big impact. Yeah, he had a big impact there. So that was one of my last one, even though he won't make the list. He's representing Kansas City, Mr. Hughes. I loved Mr. Hughes. I loved him because he was a big guy who could bump. Like he was a big athletic dude. Again, like he had a great role with the bodyguard, but he was a mean looking son of a gun. Like he really was a mean looking dude and big and quick, like a real athletic, underrated athletic guy who kind of got it. And again, like one of those dudes who won't be in the top five, but a guy who, again, was wrestling for a long time. So Mr. Hughes, SD Jones, and Iceman King Parsons.
Okay. I want to give another honorable mention, but I got to limit it down.
No,
so
we got
to get into it. We got
the list. So you're going to go first. So who are your first two?
My first two? Oh, my goodness. Oh, well, this is where I'm going to start. And I'm going to start in the 90s. This man has a place on this list because he deserves a lot of shine. A lot of people deserve to kind of know how big of an impact D'Lo Brown had on the business. D'Lo Brown was one of the high-flying, one of the most. Look, he carried 2 titles at one point. And not very many people can do that. He took 2 mid-card titles. That's meaning that nobody can take these 2 titles. Intercontinental Championship, European Championship. He held it for longer than anybody else, even though it was a championship that didn't last really long. The European Championship was D'Lo Brown's.
And he did. He said he was from like Lisbon, Portugal, and stuff. And I love the chest protector. I love how he had the chest protector.
The chest protector was insane. Like at one point, I was like, he's cheating because that sky high he would do, and then he would jump off the top ropes with the frog splash, and then that chest protector made it look like it's just that much more dangerous. So I'm definitely going with D'Lo Brown as my first pick. I think D'Lo Brown deserves a spot on this list. Now, exactly where does he go? I don't know. Now, one of my favorites of all time. I kind of got the hair right now, so I'm gonna do this right quick. This is a preview of something that you can always see real quick. The five-time WCW champion Booker T is going on the list. He has to go up there. He is one of the most transcendent black wrestlers I have ever seen in my life. He made me want to be a wrestler. Being from down home by Houston, Texas, which was closer to my home of Port Arthur, Texas, I would always watch Booker T, and when I found out he was from Houston, I loved him even more. But it was just the fact that he was in WCW as Harlem Heat doing all these things. Now, of course, I think that we all know for a fact that Booker T was one of those who got over from WCW to WWE and had a really, really big just impact as King Booker, winning the King of the Ring, doing all kinds of different things as far as gimmicks. Him and Stone Cold Steve Austin having a fight in the grocery store is legendary to this day. And I think that once you kind of look at what Booker T did as far as how he did it, if you think about it, Booker T was honestly never in a faction. He was in the Harlem Heat, which was a tag team.
MIA. You remember Misfits in Action? When he was bro.
That does not count. That does not count. MIA was exactly what it was. Missing in action. Horrible. That's exactly what it was. They would have
been. The show would have been better. I mean, not that the people in that faction weren't talented. Like Bill DeMott was a talented guy. Booker T, obviously, they had some good people, but that was a shitty idea. Let's just be. That was a stupid idea.
It was dumb. It was dumb to no end. So, but at the same time, I honestly say he didn't do it in a faction. He kind of did it by himself and with Stevie Ray early. And then kind of just fighting over adversity and kind of being the top guy in WCW at one point in time. Kind of makes that run that he had with WCW a little bit more legendary. Because if you think about it, it was name another black wrestler who got to the top like he got, who deserved to be at that spot, who deserved to win the heavyweight championship. There's nobody who else.
I'm gonna name one. I'll say that.
I mean, yeah, there is one who I'm sure that's gonna make this list, and he's definitely more deserving of that, right? But I think in WCW at the time, if it wasn't for this other guy, I'm sure you're gonna name this guy here. He, as far as I know, as Booker T, he was like, for me, and I can only speak from my perspective, he was iconic to watch. Like, I feel like people nowadays see Booker as he's announcing. He has, his other promotions,
which he's hilarious at.
He's great at it all.
He's really good at it.
Even when and people might know him from his time at TNA. Like I say, when I was watching him in WCW, it was really, really something to see, because every time you seen Harlem Heat come out, you knew for a fact that you was watching Booker do a spinning drop kick off the top rope. You seen the Harlem Hangover, and you thought he's the only motherfucker doing shit like this. And he was. It was at the time, it was his thing. Now, of course, the Harlem Hangover is just a move he kind of stole from Too Cold Scorpio, but neither here nor there. Neither here nor there. But at the same time, he was really, really good. He used it really well.
He's great. And the one thing about Booker, I think that'll come down to when we put this list together is this is 80s and 90s. So their accomplishments in the 80s and 90s are kind of thing. Booker's obviously on this list because his stuff when he was world TV champion and when he was, he had, really, really good matches. He had really great matches as a tag team champion. He really started to elevate and separate himself. Like Stevie Ray was good, but Booker was the show. Booker was the star of the show and got to where he deserved to be. I don't know if it was Bruce Pritchard or JBL who said the best thing we ever got out of the WCW sale was Booker T. Because he came in and he really was the guy that he was ready. He was over. And I loved his work. I always loved his stuff. And you mentioned the WCW Booker T. Like when he was working guys like Fit Finley and Rick Martel and Eddie Guerrero, like he was really showing. And, a big guy who could move and he could talk. Like you could really talk. And then
he said something.
Yeah, he said yes, he did. But I mean, but again, it didn't. He was never. He was real. It was there was no bullshit to him. Like in the ring, outside the ring. So definitely Booker T. But my two names is what we're gonna get to now. The first guy is the Junkyard Dog.
JYD.
If we were talking wrestlers, black wrestlers from the 80s and 90s, there isn't a list, I don't think, without the JYD. I remember as a young kid when I was 4 years old who lived in who lived in Canada. So as Jim Cornette likes to say, he's whiter than a polar bear in a blizzard. But like the first black athlete I remember following as a fan was the Junkyard Dog. It was for me and my dad. It was Hogan and the Dog. They were the top, which tells you how big of a star he was. He was just like, if you go back and look at his Mid-South stuff before, like he obviously ended up having personal problems, but he was absolutely cool. That's nice. Like, that's cool. But he was such a star. Like when he's in Mid-South, like that's kind of why he gets lost, is that the Dog who came in later wasn't the peak Dog. Like, go on the network and watch Mid-South stuff and watch him. He was a hoss, and just like they played that music and that place exploded. He had the one thing that you can't teach. Like other guys on this list are going to be better in-ring wrestlers, but he had the one thing that you can't teach, and that's charisma. People felt him. I know I did as a kid. I was like, yeah, that's my guy. So 80s and 90s JYD, and obviously Ron Simmons. you don't make
Ron, baby.
You don't make a list like this without Ron Simmons, and we're gonna argue over positioning, but like this guy, like obviously
probably won't.
Yeah, he is like, he's one of my favorite wrestlers. I love his work because I love how physical he was. He was just like, it was like everything looked good. Nothing was like, everything looked like, and he probably worked a little snug, I assume, but like everything looked good. And he was a hoss, and he could talk. And he was just, I love the power slam he did, the spine buster he did. He had a really good punch. He had those kind of qualities. And I remember I started getting TBS in about like 90 is when we started getting TBS here. So I kind of followed Ron Simmons, and I remember when I was 13, that was when he got the belt. And so I always dug him. Like he was always, and then 80s and 90s, when he did Farouk, like not the Black Spartacus, but the Nation Farouk, I like that guy should have been world champion. Let's be honest. Like he was good on the mic. When he said it, like his voice was just like, yeah, like exactly. But like when he said anything, he could tell you to go get milk and cookies, and you'd be terrified. Plus,
no, I wouldn't be terrified. I'd be going getting milk and cookies.
Yeah,
that's what you have to do.
You turn around, you'd be talking to yourself. But right. Like I think it was Ric Flair. I don't know who it was, but somebody said Ron Simmons is unfuckwithable. That was the thing. And you look at that guy like coming in. First of all, like the Stone Cold show he did with him, where he's doing training with Hiro Masuda, and he's young. He's probably like 20-something years, but he's just jacked. But like he came into the business as one of the best defensive linemen. Shout out to Country, he's a Florida State fan. Like that's the dude that made that program. And he was so respected as a football player. And then he came in here, and as a wrestler, he was great. Doom was awesome, one of my favorite tag teams. Obviously, all the stuff he did as a single in WCW, the Nation, and then we end up getting in the APA. Like there was a guy who always was, to me, he was a top star. And their run in WCW, like, man, they could have done so much more with him. They didn't give him the run as champion they should have.
No.
So, but Ron Simmons, and just there's the APA doc too, where he talks about, he's just like, how was that, Ron? As cold as it was, shitty. But like he's on the list. He's got to be on the list. He's my guy. So right now we have 4 names. We have, in no particular order, there will be D'Lo Brown, Booker T, Ron Simmons, and the Junkyard Dog. So, who's going to be number 5, George? Who do you got?
The world's strongest man, Mark Henry.
Mark Henry. I'm going to veto Mark Henry.
Give me a good reason. Give me a good reason.
The reason is, I will give you a good one. I believe that Mark Henry's tenure in the 80s and 90s, when we're talking about, isn't the Mark Henry that deserves to be on this list. The Mark Henry that deserves to be on this list is the one who found himself in the 2000s. All these other dudes, Booker T, D'Lo, deserve to be on this deserve to be in the top 5. I think there's other guys that we have who I think maybe accomplished more in this time period. So that's why I veto Mark Henry.
You got to give me a good one.
That's a good one. Doesn't matter.
So who are we replacing him with?
Well, my idea is Tony Atlas. Tony Atlas, a main event guy in New York, a main event guy in Charlotte, a main event guy coming up.
The only thing about Tony Atlas for me is most of his accomplishments are outside of the ring.
Not really.
A 3-time Mr. USA champion?
Oh, I don't care about that. Like I care about what he did in wrestling. He was a big star. He was a big star in the 80s. He definitely was. He was a big star.
He was a big tag team star, yeah.
First black tag team champions, but he was also, as a single, he's a big star in Georgia. He was earlier. That was the thing. His time frame is earlier. But there's a few other names I got who I think probably should be on the list if you're going to veto Tony Atlas. But I veto Mark Henry. So you got to come up. You got to come up with a different one. You got to come up with a different one than Mark Henry. You got to do better than Mark to make this list. I love Mark Henry, but Mark Henry in 80s and 90s.
Somewhere else, I can go Too Cold Scorpio with this because Too Cold Scorpio was very, very influential. And I'm not marking.
You know what?
I'm not marking.
I agree with that.
I'm not marking a lot of people out. The reason why I can say okay about the Mark Henry thing is because you made a legitimate argument. He definitely does.
I just use your shit against you like the Hart Foundation.
I mean, I got to call it spade. I'm a man of my word, baby. I'm a man of my word. Look, I take that. But look, if we're going to place it, we got to put Too Cold Scorpio in there. There's not a black person that's more high flying than Marty Turner.
Like, not only are these lists just to but like I like showcasing. That's why I mentioned Tony Atlas, because we like showcasing those guys who maybe don't get a list. And Too Cold Scorpio was he was an innovator. Like Absolutely. He was doing stuff in '92 that a lot of guys didn't do. And again, like he did the Flash Funk deal. He was consistent. Again, Mark Henry had a bigger platform, and that's nothing against Mark Henry.
Right. That's not nothing.
But I think Too Cold fits. I would have
a little bit more.
Yeah. So I mentioned Tony Atlas. Yeah, I think definitely Too Cold. I think that's a perfect one. I mentioned Tony Atlas. Here's some other ones. This Too Cold isn't there. That we had. D'Lo's that there. The Godfather / Papa Shango.
Yes. It was hard for me not to put him in. The reason why I didn't want to put him in is because I know that Too Cold has a little bit more he has a little bit more push right there in that time frame.
Godfather was later.
Godfather was much later, and you can honestly say in the 2000s, Godfather really took off because that's when it really got to the point to where Godfather was, booming. Now in the early 90s,
they had to cancel.
He was really big at that particular point too. But
Jesus,
I definitely know that, once you kind of put, Too Cold Scorpio in there, you got the entrance music, you have the innovative offense that he had. There was only one person I feel like who was more innovative on offense than him as far as, being a move creator. And he's not black, so I'm not going to mention him today. But definitely want to be open and honest. Like, Too Cold Scorpio was fun. Like, he worked a lot. He was
good
too, at the time that he was actually in the business as well. So there were some matches where I felt like, I honestly wish he had another costume. I really hated the way he looked. He looked like he was trying to be. It looked like Static Shock going through his goddamn outfit changes. It just didn't look like. I just hated him. But at the same time, he was flashy, so I guess it was just him trying to be flashy and trying to build that up. But it was fun. I mean, Too Cold Scorpio was fun. He was fun to watch. I mean, I won't take anything off for him. I think he was one of the greatest. Definitely one of the greatest.
And his talent, and his match quality, I think he's on this list because he was an innovative guy. I think that's one of the things. Like he just like he innovated for all of wrestling. There are a lot of people who took stuff from Too Cold Scorpio, like borrowed legit, and and he wasn't a small guy either doing that. He was big. He was 230 pounds, and so I definitely think he deserves to be on this list. He had some really good matches, and was a really good in-ring talent. But the innovation kind of that he did, I think he deserves to be on the list. So yeah, definitely. So Too Cold Scorpio. But we mentioned the Godfather, Kamala,
Mm-hmm.
the Uganda Giant. He was going to be one of my other picks too. He was like again a guy, really big dude. Could do stuff. Like you watched some. I watched Kamala's stuff back. He was doing leapfrogs and shit.
Yeah,
he's like 6'7". He's insane.
Yeah. Which was kind of a big thing at the time because they didn't have a lot of big dudes like that moving like that.
Plus, he was like, he was really good. Butch Reed is a guy I always talk about. One of my favorites. Hacksaw Butch Reed, same with Ron Simmons. Stevie Ray, obviously, we can mention Stevie Ray.
Yeah.
I think you mentioned the other day when we were talking, Coco Beware.
Coco is another one.
Coco. Again, a guy who was doing some, he was doing a lot of more high flying stuff. And like in the land of the Giants, he was one of the smaller guys. Built like a fire plug. He was like 5'8" and 5'8" wide. So
now,
those are some of the names.
Now this is a great list I think we have put out here. And Kareem is going off in the chat. I think, of course, not only to say that Jackie had a big impact on women's wrestling. Jackie did. I think she's another black wrestler that we kind of have to throw in here. No love for Jackie. Yes, we
no. Hold on one second. No. Jackie had a big impact on me, if you smell what I'm cooking. So there's a lot of love for Jackie. I'm a big fan. Hey. I remember Royal Rumble 2000. So go back and watch that and tell me why I like Jackie.
I'll put it to you like this. She was actually the first woman in Harlem Heat who was not a manager.
Yeah, she came after Sherry.
Exactly. Sherry was the manager. Sherry didn't take no bumps. Sherry wasn't in no ring.
Oh, no. Sherry took bumps. Are you nuts? Sherry took bumps.
She took
bumps from everybody.
She took bumps.
She wasn't a wrestler.
She wasn't a wrestler. Yeah, she wasn't a wrestler. So, I'm not too Hey, things happened at that point, but hey, we're here. So now we have to see where these people lie. I mean, we got 5 good picks. We have Ron Simmons, D'Lo Brown, we have JYD, we have. Where did my list go?
I got it right here. Ron Simmons, Booker T, JYD, D'Lo Brown, and Too Cold Scorpio.
And Too Cold. So, who's number 5?
Too Cold Scorpio.
Honestly, I had D'Lo 5. And the reason why I say D'Lo 5, and I may be slighting him in a sense a little bit. He worked a lot, but he also had a lot of time off, which is not his fault. I feel like during that time he could have did a lot, but that was later in his 90s career. Like late 90s, he was more or less hurt, and I feel like he didn't get enough burn. I feel like at some point, him and Too Cold Scorpio are almost tied. I feel like they can flip.
Here's why play devil's advocate. Here's why I put D'Lo ahead is I think the stuff D'Lo did was much bigger. Okay. Like D'Lo had a larger platform. Like, I mean, Too Cold was innovative, but D'Lo's matches happened in the WWF during the Attitude Era. Too Cold was kind of there, but he wasn't like a star. D'Lo was an IC champ, European champ. He had good matches. Like Venus. I
He had a
think
lot
his
of
matches were on a
too.
higher plateau, which isn't Too Cold's fault. But I think D'Lo also was a bit more of a talker. D'Lo's a great worker. Let's put that out. Like Jim Cornette hired D'Lo Brown to take bumps for the, take the gangsters bumps in Smoky Mountain
Mhm.
because he was so good. And he lost a ton of weight. Like, remember when he first came in the nation, he was like
He's kind of
400 and he got
yeah,
down
he's
like
kind of thick.
260, but I think his matches, he was a fantastic wrestler. And also I think he's a little bit more of a talker. And like you said, like, I think the stuff he did with the nation, the stuff he did, um, I think that puts him above. He was just on a higher. He was just on a more people watch D'Lo Brown shit. I think, and, maybe that's why I put him at 4 and Scorpio at 5.
Hmm. Okay. Okay.
And I,
3. I got
JYD,
JYD. Yeah.
yeah, JYD,
Okay.
absolutely.
2. I got Booker,
I got Booker
and then 1 I got
because
Ray.
there was only ever going to be one number one on this list.
There's only one Ron
I
Simmons.
I love Booker T, but like, let's be honest, in the 90s he became the first black heavyweight champ.
Yes.
I mean, nobody had done that really.
There's no accomplishment that Booker T can hold without Ron Simmons holding that.
Yeah.
He kind of created all these black wrestlers on this list simply because he had the hardest, mountain to climb. The adversity with
New Jack though, like,
at that point. Yeah, I'm not gonna even highlight New Jack on this particular episode simply because New Jack was he was good. He just wasn't.
No, he's not on the list.
He wasn't this list.
No, like, for me, yeah, Ron Simmons for me is the guy. I think the stuff he did, and he did it on a level, like, he was with WCW and he did good stuff with WWE. Like, he worked the Undertaker on main events and pay-per-views. Like, he was a big time star, and Booker T was going to become that in the 2000s. He was on the precipice. Like, he was going to get there. He was right there already. They finally pulled the trigger in 2000 to give him that shot. And then he took it a level further. But I definitely think, Ron Simmons, Booker T. I think JYD, I think that's a really good spot for him, number 3.
Yeah.
And then I like D'Lo and I like Too Cold. I like those because, they were kind of like the carpenters. They were kind of the workers. And again, aren't going to get a lot of love. Like, people think, aren't going to get the love that maybe they should. But I like that list. That's a good list. And that was tough because there's a lot of good dudes and men and women on this. So
absolutely. I think we definitely have a lot of people that we could have mixed in. I think one of the things that you kind of have with the list like this, you kind of have to look at perspective and why we chose the people we chose. They were influential in their way. They were title holders in a way. They held a very, very huge spot in history at some point as well. And some of them didn't get the notoriety that others should have. I mean, others did. Some people got some notoriety that, you would kind of consider not necessarily high flying or mediocre. It was just, what it was. I feel like D'Lo was one of those. You love to see D'Lo come out. You love to see D'Lo wrestle.
Well, he did this.
Everything D'Lo did.
When he came out and he did a
little neck. Yeah, just doing that. Just giving everything he had in those matches. He made a loss look good, and D'Lo was a good wrestler. So
he was.
He had a lot of different things that happened inside the ring that were very iconic to this day. He never really talked a lot. He talked a little bit. He talked enough.
He was a good talker.
So he
was a better talker than Scorpio. Yeah.
Yes. And that was something that you always kind of had to look into too, because sometimes you had Scorpio on the mic just kind of shucking and jiving a little bit, but hey.
Oh, we should say this. We should have said it from the top. Chris couldn't make it because it's Mother's Day and he had to go to a dinner.
Of course.
So that's no problem. But we will have Chris back. I was excited to have Chris, but we'll have him back. We're going to have a lot. So George, what we're gonna do, I think, is do you want to go with the poll because we got good response from the poll last time. So we did black wrestlers of the 80s and 90s. So we had the Eddie Guerrero matches. No love for ECW, like at all. Nobody wants to hear anything about
None.
ECW. So I'm gonna take it off the poll because it got 0%. So Eddie Guerrero matches, managers. We need 2 more categories to put on the poll, George. What are we looking at? Now, should we divide up the managers? Because there are a lot of managers, like if we do greatest of all time, I think that's kind of a like, or do you want to do just managers flat, or do you want to do managers like we did here, the 80s and 90s, 2000, like, because there's when there was managers, there aren't as many now. Only Paul's left.
No, they got a
But
few. They got a few. It's just that they're not as good. That's why they don't show up. I'm gonna tell you right now. There's managers out there. You like, oh, it's just
so
Paul
we'll
Heyman.
just do best managers. Best managers.
Okay.
We can handle that. So we got Eddie Guerrero managers. What else we got? What's another category that we can put on the poll?
Let's do best main event matches.
All right, let's narrow that down. So like best. What about this one, George? What about the best King of the Ring matches of all time? Like at the actual King of the Ring event, because King of the Ring's coming up, so King and Queen of the Ring. But you got like there's a lot. I mean, Hell in a Cell, Shane and Kurt. Bret Hart had some really good King of the Ring matches.
Yeah, he had a couple.
We could do that because like best main events of all time. That's a giant friggin' list. And
I mean, I can.
Or do you want to do like
let's do.
I just think we need to. Yeah.
Best match stipulation.
Best stipulation matches, or like
or best type of match. Like, what is the best Hell in a Cell? Or let's rank the types of matches. What do people prefer? Do you prefer elimination chamber, Hell in a Cells,
best gimmick matches?
Best gimmick matches.
So the top 5, like not like Eddie Guerrero versus so and so. The actual match. Like whatever's on Spin the Wheel, make the deal.
Exactly.
Like the coal miner glove match will not make that fucking list. I can just tell you that. That was the worst.
The triple Hell in a Cell match from WCW, that will not fucking make it either. That big piece of bullshit they put out there, that pissed me off. Because they did it based off of the fucking movie.
Tower of Doom or something like that?
Yeah, the Tower of Doom. I'm like, bro, that was the dumbest shit in the world. Bro, that cage was not stable. I was waiting on somebody to die. And I'm not saying that like, oh, I'm waiting on you to die. No, it looked like somebody was going to get hurt and die. If y'all ever see the Tower of Doom, go back and watch it. The second level of the goddamn cage is basically a bunch of fucking paper clips they strapped together, because that shit looked unstable. Like if I walk my fat ass across there, I'm good and gone. So that's how bad it looked. So if y'all ever had some time, go back on the Peacock app and watch some WCW. Find the Tower of Terror, because it described exactly what it was in the worst way possible. But it was fun to watch. I just from a safety perspective, I was just worried that everybody looked at like they was gonna die. So, I mean, you got cage matches, you have tables matches, you have all kinds of different types of matches. You have TLC submission matches, and then of course Iron Man matches. What was the one? I mean, there's got to be one that kind of sticks out to make it the best. And of course, that TLC match at WrestleMania 17, I'm pretty sure people hold it at one of the highest peaks of matches that you can ever see. But
Hell in a Cell's on that list. Like the first two Hell in a Cell matches.
Oh my god!
The first one was Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker was incredible. It was so good. So
The match with Undertaker and Mankind, I think, was better because of
I don't think so.
that.
I don't think so.
Still to this day, bro, you can't say when Undertaker threw him off the cell, you couldn't imagine that man was dead. Like at that time, that particular portion, and then Mick Foley not necessarily wanting to give up in the match brings a whole new element to it. Because as much as the Undertaker did to him, it was still like, no, I'm still giving you my best, and he was bleeding everywhere. Now, Shawn,
Yeah,
his match with Undertaker,
that match was.
it was
I like it better.
the reason why everybody liked it better is because it was first. You have no expectation to
And
build off of. It was first.
and it was Shawn Michaels. I
That
mean,
too. So I'm just like, I mean,
I
you
know
don't
it's.
look at the Mankind match. I mean, as far as the echelon of who was in the
Oh,
match,
come on, Ken. What are we
I don't
talking?
look at that. I don't look
Come
at
on,
that just
come
because
on, Meltzer. What are you talking about? It's like
I
he's
don't know
like
about
I don't think there's
history, but that
no.
doesn't feel as
That's
good than Shawn Michaels and Undertaker to me.
I don't.
Because
We'll have to figure. But anyway, the first
we'll have to debate that one
Hell
day.
in the Cell as a match is really good. So the fourth one, uh, nobody biting on the ECW heels. So I'm going to do the top 5 WWF heels from 85 to 90. So really the first national expansion, part of the national expansion, starting in the WrestleMania era to WrestleMania 6. The same one we did the tag team one.
Uh,
Because if we do top 5
we're
heels
gonna
ever,
open
that's
that.
again.
We gotta open that. We gotta. I'm currently. This entire show was being, secondary to. I don't know why I've been watching Bash at the Beach all day, but I'm watching currently Perry Saturn and Raven, and I'm just like, it's some good ones. So we got to get some heels in there, so we can do WCW heels too. Because WWF has some heels, but WCW has some heels too. Because I'm watching Raven right now, and as much as I love Raven, it's because I hated Raven that much as a child.
So top WCW heels we'll do from because WWF's been around longer. We'll go from when WCW started in 1989.
Well, would you want
To
to consider them as one company now? Because of course they bought WCW, so would that consider both companies?
no. I think I think like heels. Heels is one of those lists that you can divide
You got
up
to separate, yeah.
because there's too many. Like I mean, so I think WCW heels because they went about 11 years, like to 2001, so 12 years. So that's a good period. And okay, so we got Eddie Guerrero WCW matches. I might pull Eddie Guerrero off. I might add something new in there. Just keep it fresh. Managers, gimmick matches. Because we have the WCW. What else do we need? Do we need something?
Who's the
I
greatest?
know.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No. I'm here.
I was gonna do play-by-play announcers. We could do play-by-play announcers, but you were gonna say something, so.
The old noodle's always kind of moving.
The old noodle, huh?
Best special guest referees. Because there's a lot.
It was a lot, that's for sure. I could do that. We'll see. Put it on the poll, see what people say.
Because I'm gonna tell you right now. I watched one the other day with Shawn Michaels as a special guest referee. You couldn't wait for the motherfucker to kick somebody. You just couldn't wait. Or the best gimmick, and we can exclude the Undertaker. We can exclude.
Listen, how about because gimmicks again is another one that you could put down. How about we do the worst gimmicks? But like,
Yes. Top five
but like,
worst gimmicks. Oh, I can do
but
that.
of a time period, like in a like because there are bad gimmicks all over the place. So like bad gimmicks of the '80s, bad gimmicks of the '90s,
Um,
like 2000s,
80s and
WCW,
90s. Oh,
WWF.
no, no. If we did 2000s, I can just do WCW all day. But that's not what I'm gonna do. Um,
Let's do worst WWF gimmicks of the '80s and '90s. Because or like WCW had some really shitty ones. Like they were kind of
so we have to like exclude like certain things. Um, hmm.
that stupid dinosaur dude. Who was that?
Oh, I know. He probably was talking about Mentor, the
Oh,
Minotaur.
Mantar. Yeah, that was a bad one. Um, let me see here.
So automatically out, it's got to be Shockmaster. Has got to be automatically out. Um, Gobbledygooker automatically out.
Yeah, that.
Kiss Demon automatically out.
Yeah. Oh
Mr.
no.
America automatically out.
Well, he might not be on the list because of that. But trying to think of another. We did gimmick, best gimmick matches, top heels, special guest referees. That's pretty funny. Um, what was the? I was trying to think of a category that would be. Uh, we had talked about it the other day. And I fucking forget what it is. Hmm. Well, now we should save that for some other time. It was like we could do one of our top 5 wrestlers from this place
Hmm.
because we had talked about doing one of those.
Hit me with it.
Top 5 Canadian wrestlers.
You know what's funny about that? I'll take that. I'll definitely take that
What?
because I think top five Canadian wrestlers we can definitely do. Because I just found out somebody's from Canada that I really didn't know who was from Canada.
Yeah, I may have a couple. I may have. We may have a guess for that. I think I got a. I might have a guess for that too. I know a couple Canadian wrestlers. So
If you don't know
George,
Canadian wrestlers, I'm gonna leave the show. I'm gonna say it that high. I'm gonna leave the show.
listen. Like we know who's going to be the number 1 Canadian wrestler. The question is, do we?
Do we?
We'll have to think about that. Like maybe the top 5 Canadian wrestlers not with the last name Hart. I mean, there's only going to be 2 because they'll take up 2 of the spots. But like, can we do top 5 Canadian wrestlers? Like, maybe of like the 2000s and beyond.
Hmm.
Because we had a bunch of Canadian wrestlers in the '80s, but like there are guys today who might, we could talk about.
Let's do 2000 and beyond. I like that.
So, because I think that gives us a little bit better of a feel. So there we go. We'll put that on the poll.
I've said this before, and Kareem just said it again. The best entrance music.
Yeah, that's here. I'll write that down too. I'm always typing things down. Best entrance music.
I'm not gonna lie.
No country.
That show, I'm not gonna lie, that's gonna be a hard one.
That is tough. That's a tough one. Um, like best entrances, just period, not just music entrances.
Best interests. Let's do that. Oof. Oof.
So we got a ton of upcoming topics, but
Only one makes a show per week. So
yeah, so we got to. So this week on the poll, top 5 Canadian wrestlers 2000 beyond, managers, best gimmick matches, and top WCW heels. And George, we will be doing probably a special episode. We'll have to figure out when with my partner and sensei and mentor, El Tornado.
absolutely.
He is nobody knows. Nobody's ever. He's not on social media. Don't try and. I think he's still got a like. I think he still uses like cup phones. He lives in. He lives in Northern Ontario. So, but he's a great guy. Number one, and number two, he's an incredible wrestler with an incredible knowledge of wrestling. That's on a like 28 years in the game. Done a lot of stuff with the different companies and stuff. So I want to have him on the list, and he's going to give us his top 5, which I'll bet there's going to be at least 2 people on that list that nobody's ever heard of before.
I can definitely see that.
But he's got a great head for wrestling. Loves wrestling. Has great story. So he's an interesting person we're going to talk to. We're going to do a show on, and we're always looking for special guests. So, but this is great. We had some good. What a fucking list. We narrowed it down. Damn it. Ron Simmons, Booker T, JYD, D'Lo Brown, and 2 Cold Scorpio. The top 5 black wrestlers from the 80s and 90s. It's a great list.
That's our list. And I would love for to see what everybody else's list is. So we'll put this, graphic out. Please comment. Please let us know what your top 5 is. Please let us know what you would change. If you could add anybody to this list, let us know who you would add. I'm definitely interested to see exactly what your perspective is. We're talking about black wrestlers here, ladies and gentlemen. So let's do it. I'm liking the fact that we picked the list from the 80s and 90s without actually arguing about black people. I would have had to call you a word that you probably couldn't say back. But nevertheless, it's at the end of the show. We're looking at everybody.
I didn't veto the nation. I'm just saying.
I kicked them niggas out. yeah, get them out of here. Get them out of here. But no, at the same time, I was like this. I was actually fighting, like I said, for the excellence of execution. It was just that list was kind of,
No, I get it. You don't have to explain yourself.
We're here to talk about. This whole show shined out everybody. So look, I put it to you like this: the Canadians didn't get a whole show just yet. So at the same time, they will definitely get their own show. So, but I guess because I went against the nation that day, the black people got their episode first. So I will take it if we don't get anything else first in life.
And I me, I love the idea to highlight people that otherwise may not get mentioned. And with people like Ernest Miller, Norman Smiley, and SD Jones, and those kind of, and a lot of pioneers there, like Tony Atlas and Rocky Johnson was one we didn't mention. We didn't mention The Rock's dad.
No, I didn't want to mention Rocky Johnson too.
Yeah, another Canadian. Yeah,
Nova Scotia. Butcher. Another Canadian.
Another Canadian. Yeah. So there's so many, but I like the list we got, and I think that I like the Scorpio pick, him on the list, because he was such an innovator. But thank you to everybody who watched and is watching. This is quite incredible. I love doing it, and I know George loves doing it. And so we thank everyone for watching. Like, subscribe, share. Show us some love.
We here every week, not for just us, but for you too. We want y'all to enjoy this content just as much as we love doing it. I think that we do this every week, and if we get more views, less views, 1 million views, I don't care. I'm here to talk about the subjects with y'all. If y'all want to come on the show, let us know. We are down to talk wrestling with anybody who is willing to talk wrestling with us. If I can get JBL to come on the show, or Bubba Ray Dudley to come on the show, hey, let's do it. I would love to talk, wrestling with you guys and just kind of pick your guys' brains and just see what y'all
Mhm.
guys' top fives is in this thing. So let us know.
Yeah, yeah, I'd definitely love to see. I know we're going to be talking to some wrestlers, but have some wrestlers on because they bring a unique perspective because they were actually in the ring and they can, and who do they like? Who is like of their peers or the people that they'd rank? So,
Yeah.
but it was a great show. I love the episode. Happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there. We still got 40 minutes left, but and
They have a day. They have a day.
yeah. Anyway, everyone have a good night. That was 5 Count. We'll see you next week.
Peace.